All right, good morning. Thanks for tuning in to a special report on Mountaintop Media. We're doing an interview with the Shasta County ROV candidate, Joanna Francescut. And anyways, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful morning. Can't beat a nice spring morning in Redding, California.
In May.
In May, yeah.
I know. The weather's pretty awesome. I'm enjoying it. I like these last little bit of rains we've had.
Yeah.
So anyways, obviously you've been involved with the ROV for a very long time.
Yeah, so I worked in the office 17 years. Started out as extra help. My very first job in there was verifying signatures on petitions, and I worked my way up to become the assistant county clerk. So I worked in the office a really long time.
Yeah. So I always like to start out kind of with your life story, just for like where you come from, your upbringing, and just like, some of the personal type of stuff. I like to know those kind of things, about people.
Yeah. So my childhood, I grew up in Washington, Idaho, and Montana. My dad was a forester, and when my mom was pregnant with her eighth child, my dad had to start his career over to the spotted owl. So I moved a lot. I lived in the woods. I always say I grew up in the trees in Washington and Idaho, but mostly in Montana, and moved around a lot. I graduated high school from Libby, Montana, and then I went to play volleyball at Sheridan College in Sheridan, Wyoming, and that's where I met my husband. And we soon after started having children. And in 2007, right after my daughter was born, we moved back to Redding, where he was born, to be closer to his grandparents. And so that's just like the quick overview of my life and where I've been and where I've lived and some of the most beautiful places in the world. But I just love Redding and Shasta County. This is my home, longest place I lived. Really enjoy being here. So that's a little bit about me. I have 6 brothers and 1 sister. So
What number are you?
I'm number 6.
Number 6. Okay.
Yeah. And so, and actually my parents actually had 9 children. They lost their second child. My mom was told not to have any more kids. So she had 7 more. And
after the second one,
Yeah. My sister was born with spina bifida. And so back in the early 70s, they were like, I don't know what causes spina bifida. But my mom ended up being in a study to help people understand what to do to prevent spina bifida from happening. And so, it was an interesting growing up with so many brothers and 1 sister. So we had a lot of fun growing up.
Well, that's amazing to have that many more kids after being told you probably shouldn't have any more.
Yeah. Resilience. A lot of resilience in my family.
That's awesome. So what makes you, obviously been involved in the ROV. What's your motivation for, running for the top dog position?
The top dog position. Well, I have a passion for this work. And that's something that I learned pretty quickly when I started in the office. At first, I was like, oh, this is such a fun job. I get to issue marriage licenses and do passport applications. And
because you got to wear a couple different hats.
You wear a couple different hats. And so my first experience with the hat was a lot of really fun things. And it just provided me with, oh, this is a good job. My job before this was I was a bill collector. So I was getting yelled at all day long.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Telling people, hey, you bounce this check. We need to come, we need that money. And so that was quite a difference in my career. And then all of a sudden elections came along, and the way it works, the way the processes are, they're straightforward and pretty, you think they're black and white until you realize, oh wait, there's another law over here that we have to follow that. And that's going to impact this process here. And the troubleshooting that comes with election administration has always been very intriguing to me. But the biggest reason why I'm running is I love to serve the community. I'm a server. I like to work hard, and I like to really help people become better people and do things that will impact their lives. And that's one of the things I found with this career is the passion I got from serving each other, from people not even knowing what it takes to administer an election. And they get their ballot, they get their voter information guide, they read it, their micro ballot, they return it. They don't even know the impacts that I've had on their lives, allowing them to, cast their ballot independently, privately, and securely. So that's what I get out of it, is serving the community. That's why I'm running, is I want us to have trusted leadership within this community that can count the ballot and everybody know that it's accurate.
Yeah, I have some major trust issues, not necessarily with you, but I understand you got to work within the parameters of everything, of what, state law, there's a lot of things. I've had my own experiences, and I mean, I would like to get your personal opinions on some things versus just what the laws and what you have to do, if you don't mind. You know, like so in 2020, I moved personally, and from one house to another house, and I was in a different district, so I didn't re-register to vote until like 7 days before the election. So I didn't get a mail-in ballot. And I went to my polling location and I said, hey, I don't have my ballot and I wanted my vote to be valid. Plus I was in a different district and everything. And I wanted to be legit. I kind of dragged my feet on re-registering at my legitimate residence at that time. And I just walked in there and they handed me a sheet of paper, you know, and I don't know if that's the way they were supposed to do it. And they're like, well, here, find yourself on here. And then I was like, okay. And it was all alphabetical. And I found myself. I was like, here, I'm John Knight. And then they got on the phone and then they gave me a ballot and then I voted. And I was just like, man, if I was like, had a list of different people at different polling locations, I could have went and voted, you know, just if I knew who was registered to vote but normally doesn't vote. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking in my mind, like there would be a lot of ways. And I know that's kind of, I don't know. So for me, I'm just like, that was just, you know, no voter ID, no way to verify who I was. I just said, you know, this is me. And
yeah, you know, and California law is really tricky because we have to follow California law. That's the fact. And what's happened is the California state legislatures have constantly said this is typically a poll tax when you're asking for voter ID. So we do check ID when you register to vote. We check and verify your ID every time you register to vote. We're checking with the DMV. In fact, most of the signatures we now have in the database come directly from your driver's license from the DMV. So we're checking your ID every time you register to vote. And when you show up to the polling place, you're not supposed to be given the list. You're supposed to say, hey, my name is John Knight, and I live at 123 Main Street in Redding, California. That's the law. Like you as a voter coming in to say, hey, I live at this address. This is who I am. And then they find you on the list. If they can't find you on the list, then they have to look into it a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And if you're a first-time voter and we couldn't verify your ID, they're going to ask for ID. So there are different things when it comes to that. I also know that I won't share what my opinions are on voter ID. Okay. And so I will make that very clear. Okay. I will always say something to the effect of anything that makes our elections more secure is a good thing. And that's what I always say when it comes to these political issues, because I want to remain nonpartisan. I don't want people to think that I'm not going to count their vote for any reason whatsoever. And so for me, and that's my kind of my integrity of this issue, is to not share my political opinion publicly because of that. Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks how some of these issues become political issues. For me, I think voter integrity is a sacred and the most important thing, you know, that exists, that we can do to have, you know, like there's nothing more important, I think, than your vote counting for, you know, and the will of the people to be carried out. So it's frustrating for me that an issue like that would be a partisan issue, but I understand what you're saying.
I mean, right now I take a breath and it's a partisan issue. I'm getting accused of lying and all kinds of misinformation's been spread about me. I've been told I'm a liberal from LA. There's so many things that are happening because they're living in fear that their vote's not going to be counted. And I want to bring that calmness, that calmness that, hey, you can trust the results of the election, because here in Shasta County, we're doing it right. We're following the law, we're following the procedures, and this is what you can and can't see, and this is where we're at. And try to get away from all this political, I'm starting to call it tribalism, but we got to figure out a way to calm that here in Shasta County a little bit and really just have people trust in the elections office and the results that they're seeing, regardless of who wins. And it's frustrating that I can't share my political opinions, because I think a lot of the people in the community would really resonate with me a lot more, and it would calm things down a little bit further. But I'm standing on this ground that I can't share certain things. I will follow the law, and that's what I'm going to always say. I will do my best to always follow the law.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So, do you think that there's some things that could have been done better, like say previous to Tom Toller, you know, and obviously, we don't need to get into him really because he was there for such a short time, but do you think there was some reasons that some people were skeptical of some things, or would you want to run things exactly how they were before? And I know it's a moving target because laws change, so you can't just say I would do it exactly the same.
So you can never run one election exactly the same as you run in the previous election. There's so many different variables, whether it's high turnout, low turnout, the staff that you have trained. Every election, it's important that you look at the process, you look at the procedures, and you make improvements. The biggest hurdle that we have in our local elections is the facility that we're in. If I had a different facility, things would look a lot different, a lot better. And I know there's been some changes made since I left that I need to look at and analyze when I come in and see how they're going to impact the system as a whole. But knowing the system as the big picture of the system and having that, and like my goal is to always make improvements, to always see what's going on and how we can better serve the voters. And that's always my goal. So will I do things exactly the same? No, I will never do things exactly the same, but I will look at and analyze what's happened and what changes we made and move forward. Hardest part with election administration besides the building is the resources. So every dollar that that office is spending is a dollar taken away from the sheriff. We're taking money from the same bucket. And so I want to make sure that our funding and our resources we're using the littlest amount of resources to be the most efficient we can in the office so that it can go to other priorities within our community, which is not just elections as well. And so having that balance of resources plus where we're at in the location really needs to be taken into consideration when making changes or looking at the future here in Shasta County with the elections office.
Okay, yeah. Do you like the cameras that have been put up recently, or do you have an opinion on that?
I don't know that I have an opinion on it. I'm frustrated that it doesn't show what he says it shows. He says it shows all the ballots being counted. It doesn't. It legally can't show that. And in fact, it's only showing about 10 to 20% of the ballots being counted. So I don't think it's an effective way to show what he's saying is showing. But are there processes that we can make to make things more transparent and make things more observable? Yes, there are. And I need to look in there. I haven't been in the actual location.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I've been working up in Trinity County.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So on election day, I'm actually working. I'm not watching what's happening at the polling place or watching what's happening here in the office. And that same with November. So I haven't actually been to the location while they're doing the work and seeing what's happening. The only time I went in is to do my candidate filing, and I didn't go in the back room to see what they changed or what they didn't change. And so as far as moving forward, that if I get elected, it's not something I'm just going to like rip away and take away. I want to look into it, see what the costs are. Is it cost effective, or can we do it in a different way? It's always something I will look at and understand a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, how do you feel about the chain of custody, or just like how the ballots are secured and anything? I mean, because I was there personally when there was a lot of ballots, inside of the room, and they were just kind of in totes and stuff like that. And we wanted to put some tape on the wall, and you weren't there, but Kathy was there, and we just wanted to put tape on the door, and I just feel like, is there a better way to make sure that nobody's around the ballots without proper observation? I know that was one issue that I kind of had. I think even though in the facility that there is, I feel like there could be a way to.
So I want to make it clear, like we have processes and procedures in place for staff when they can and cannot access the ballots. And again, if you started observing the office prior to 2020, if you're there way before 2020 to where even 2024 when I left, you would not believe the huge difference between those two elections, or between 2010 and 2024. There was a procedures change, and observation was increased, and so was security and chain of custody. We worked really hard to get the chain of custody increased. When I first started working here, all SIG verification happened at everybody's desk. So there was ballots all over the office.
Yeah.
And not kept in secure bins or secure cages while they're being SIG verified. So they were all over the office. People were taking them back and forth. I mean, it was a lot of work that we had to do to get that work done. And so balancing out the efficiency of the office, the chain of custody of the ballots, and making sure we can get the results results final as quickly as possible has always been a struggle in that office. And so whether or not people can observe the process or see that process I don't say it doesn't matter, but it makes sure that we want to make sure that people understand that the voter's right comes first, and that right to have their ballot counted comes before people watching those ballots. And that's another thing that is going to become controversial on my hand, because I'm always there to protect the voters versus protect the observers. And the observers have the right to see what's happening. At that point in time, we did have cameras. We did have people watching us. We did have that stuff happening, and we weren't doing it during our day. We weren't going in and touching ballots when staff weren't authorized to do that. We have processes and policies in place to have that happen. And they were kept in secure cages and secure totes. So they were always kept in a secure room with locks on the door, and within that, secure cages and information. So, and we track it too. We have documents where we're tracking when ballots come in. We know how many are coming from the polling place. We know how many are coming in from each drop box. We have documents when they're coming in and then being moved throughout the process in the office. So it's there. Could I have made it more observable? Could I have made it more transparent? Yes, we probably could. But what can we do to help build your trust with that process? Your neighbors that are helping count ballot, how can we help you trust that process is the other question we have.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay, awesome. Is there anything else you want to go over? I mean, I know we invited you here, but I don't want to hammer you with too many questions.
I'm fine answering as many questions you need. I do better when people ask me questions, but I want the community to know that I'm your neighbor. I'm here because I want to serve the community, and I want to do the right thing. I want to follow the law and follow the procedures. And if people don't like something, come tell me. I'm not one of those people who are gonna like whiplash back and say, I can't believe, like, that's not who I am. I'll hear you out. I'll listen to you. But I also encourage everybody to come in with an open mind and understand. My understanding of election administration is completely different than most people in this community. And I have a big picture of systems and processes and procedures and know where the chain of custody is. We have secure elections in Shasta County. We always have. We've always worked to make improvements to make the processes better and stronger. And that's the way we need to move forward, is moving forward. We have to stop looking back, and we need to move forward to make our community strong, to help people trust in elections. And I want to do that by moving forward.
Yeah. Do you think that, I mean, with the mail-in ballots, do you think without even any internal corruption, it would be possible for mail-in ballots to be sent out from an outside source?
No. So like even with the voting systems, so like remember that overspray issue that we had?
Yeah.
Okay. So those barcodes weren't printed very perfectly on that ballot.
Yeah.
So even with the Dominion voting system, if the ballot wasn't printed perfectly, then the machine couldn't read it.
Yeah.
And so if someone from an outside source is creating a ballot that's Shasta County, so in Shasta County in the November 2024 election, you had 54 different ballot types, all with different precinct numbers. And they would have had to get the exact ballot type, the exact precinct number to get that information out from outside sources. It's not going to happen. So the machines are very strict when it comes to how they can process it. They're looking for different markers on the ballot. So those would have to be printed perfectly and known. Also, every vote by mail ballot is tied to a vote by mail envelope. So we can't open up that envelope until we verify your signature on that envelope. So 80% of the people that return their ballot are choosing to return it by vote by mail. And staff are verifying the signature, and they're verifying the signature that comes from your driver's license. So it would take a lot for people to get those ballots in. And then also the chain of custody requirements that are happening with the polling place. You issue ballots to the poll workers. They come back on election night. We're tracking how many people voted, and we're doing a reconciliation every single time. So adding ballots into the pot is very, very hard to do without having a voter also signing that envelope or that roster at the polling place.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better.
What else do you got?
What else do I got? Well, I do have one issue with the ballots being secured and not being, in 2022, in I believe it was March, there was 5 people in the room with the ballots, and they weren't technically counting the ballots, but we just wanted to put tape on the door. And I actually stayed the night there all night to make sure there was nobody in there. And there was about 15 people from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock when it actually opened up. There was about 15 people inside of the ROV, and then inside of the room with the ballots, there was 5 people in there. And they were not counting anything, and I'm not even going to make any accusations, but for me, I stayed the night there because we just wanted to make sure nobody was around the ballots when there was without proper observation, and then I just feel like, what the heck did I stay here for? There's no point,
So, we are an office that does other things. So, and it was June of 2022.
Oh, June. Okay. Yeah.
So June of 2022. But we are an office that does multiple things. So I have to have staff come in the morning to prepare the cash drawers so that we can issue marriage license and be ready to go at the front counter for that. And I have staff that work from 7 a.m. till 6 p.m. We would have a rotating schedule, but at no time was a staff individually alone in that office. Yeah. And at all times, ballots are in either secure cages or secure rooms. And so staff have to have access to the building. So if you can help me understand how the sticker on the door would prevent the staff from going in to do their job.
Well, I mean, why not just when it opens up at 8, that's when people could start counting and people would still be able to do their job. But there was actually just totes of ballots. I mean, I have the pictures and everything timestamped on the table. They weren't in secured cages and stuff.
Yeah, but they were in secure bags. So when every ballot comes back from the polling place comes in a secure bag, and they have to be sealed up and documented on there and signed by the poll workers. And then we have to have 2 people open them. So whether they're not they're in secure bags or secure cages, they're in secure envelopes that are processed. And we have checks and balances in place that come with all of those processes. When people come in and say, I don't trust the election because somebody was standing in the room with the ballots, but we don't know that they were actually touching the ballots. We want to make sure that we're doing trusted information out there and being a strong witness. So do we have people in the building at all times? That's when we're not processing ballots. No, we don't, because I have to have staff be able to get their jobs done.
Yeah.
And so there are times when people were coming in to observe that we allowed them to be in the building at all times, but then staff weren't able to get their jobs done, and we weren't being effective, and we weren't being the most efficient public servants. And so we had to do a boundary at that point and put up a schedule. And then anytime we were processing ballots, we made sure people were aware of that. We posted that schedule and we stuck to that schedule as much as we could. But again, counting ballots is dependent on turnout, when you receive ballots, when you don't receive ballots. And so there has to be some flexibility with that too as well. And I'm sorry if you felt like you didn't feel like they were secure, but I want to reiterate that staff work hard to serve this community. They are members of their community. They want the election results perfect. If there's one little mistake, they're freaking out trying to figure out what's happening, why they can't balance, what they did wrong. And they all have a heart of gold, and they have a servant's heart, and that's why they're doing this work. They don't get paid enough to do what they're doing.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
my daughter works at Dutch Bros and makes way more money than any of the frontline staff do. And we need to be really considerate of that these people are working really hard, oftentimes missing family events, just so that they can serve this community. And then they're getting accused of being malfeasant or not following the law. And it can take a toll on people and become very, very stressful. So we need to come together as a community and figure out how we can trust that process and how we can make that happen. And after 2022, we implemented more cameras, we implemented more things. And
were those cameras involved in watching the actual counting process, or was that like cameras outside?
There was both cameras outside and both cameras inside the building as well.
Yeah, because I like the idea of having a camera over where the ballots are getting counted, because if, like, let's say you lost by 10 votes or something and you were in the election, you could say, you know what, I'm going to go back, and you could just, with a clicker in one hand and the other hand, or a couple people, audit your own election and just go and make sure everything was counted right. And you could go there and go, okay, and click, 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 and audit, speed it up a little bit. And for me, I just think that's a great idea, because if instead of contesting an election, or, you might just say, well, it was so close. If it was miscounted just a little bit, a small fraction of error, you know, you could sit there and audit your own election without having to create a whole process. And you could go back and say, you know what, I ended up losing by 2 more votes. So, or
yeah, I mean, and that's a great idea if it was cost effective and efficient. But when you're adding something to the process that becomes $100,000, $200,000 each election, is that really going to be effective if it's just for those one close when you can pay for a recount at the end if it's your own election? Or why doesn't the county take my recommendations that I said and say, when it's so close, let's do automatic recount? The Board of Supervisors chose not to do that. The Board of Supervisors chose not to bring the resolution and the ordinance I brought to them. So
when was that?
that was during the hand count process when I was working with them to create a hand count plan. Something similar, Santa Clara County.
Was that 2022?
2023.
2023, okay.
I brought this and I said, we should do something very similar to this. I worked with county council to create an ordinance that said, if we're within a certain number margin, let's hand count all the ballots. Let's see where we're at. And the Board of Supervisors took it off the agenda. So I was trying to work with these people and trying to make sure that we can work together as a team to have what we need for secure elections to happen here in Shasta County. But that's what it takes. It takes a combined opportunity. But the cost effectiveness, too, is a balance. Because I know Mr. Curtis has spent over $100,000 on cameras. And I know that he has to pay that again for this election. And he's only capturing 20% of the ballots. He's not,
so how do
he
you...
can't capture all of them.
No, so help me understand how... If you're paying for the cameras, how do you have to pay for them again? I just don't understand that.
Because my understanding is that IT didn't get it fully set up because they didn't have enough time to process. So, for example, I tried to add 10 cameras in 2024.
Yeah.
I was told I can add 2 because I needed a new server. So then I worked with IT to purchase a new server, which we finally got in April of 2025, where I could add additional cameras. But it took me 6 months to add just that one server to get those cameras in play. And so keeping that in mind, it just takes time with county processes and county administration to get stuff done. And so when you're rushing through something, oftentimes with the county, and that's something Mr. Curtis had to do, was rush through it. It takes time. It's not fully implemented. So now he has to pay for it to be implemented again and set up and put into place.
So once the cost of getting it set up is there, would the cost be, I mean, there's an upfront cost, but after that, would it be like a lot less? And maybe...
No, I have to look at it all with IT.
Yeah.
For example, like we don't just pay for a camera or a computer for the county.
Yeah.
Our department pays monthly fees to keep IT going, to keep the staff going. So every time you add any type of device, it just adds more to the election budget and takes, it's just taking funds from our general fund and every local tax dollar that it takes to administer elections. So it's not just our general fund that's paying for elections, it's the fire department. It's the school district. Those are all our local tax dollars that are paying to administer elections. So you're adding the continued cost for cameras. When we're already taking an image of the ballot, when we're scanning that in, and if we need to, we're going to go back and hand count those ballots or follow the court orders if there's a contested election. So really keeping that in mind, there's laws and procedures in place that we have to follow as well. And I'm not saying the cameras is a bad idea.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it could be very costly.
Yeah.
And take efficiency away from what people really want are the results of the election.
Yeah. So I'm on the mosquito board, and we spent a little over $150,000, I believe. I'm going from memory. It's been a while. We voted this a year and a half ago. So we have an in-house lab where we are able to test for mosquito and tick-borne diseases versus sending it off to UC Davis. And you wait, it's like a week or longer to get the results, and then you have to pay them. And now that we do it in-house, it was a huge upfront cost. But after about 5 years, it's going to be all paid for, and then it will be cheaper and quicker. And so that's kind of how I look at things. I'm not as worried about the upfront cost, but I don't know about, I don't know all the details of the cameras, but I would be all for it if it was. But I think your guys' budget should be, bigger in my opinion. I wish you guys were able to do whoever's in there just because how important it is. I don't want you to take away from fire department or anything like that. Looking at some of the budget, I think that it should be more of a priority than some other things. And I'm not going to get into exactly what. I mean, health and human services is a huge part of our budget, around half. You know, and I'm not trying to say that's not a huge issue. But anyways, I wish you guys had more of a budget to do.
Oh, I wish we had more of a budget too.
Yeah.
But again, it's a balance of resources. There's no federal funding, or very limited federal funding, and there's inconsistent state funding that comes in with administering an election. And so that's a big piece of it. When you're not getting those federal funds and those state funds to match, it's hard to get funding for elections, and it's hard. A lot of people think we only work one day a year.
Oh, yeah, right? One day a year.
It's one day a year.
Well, you've got months of stuff with the elections.
Yeah, you have months of planning. I mean, I often say it takes 260 days to plan for one election, and that's if you're rushing through it. But in staff, we never know what's going to happen. Look at Shasta County this year. We're going to have 3 elections back to back, and staff are working hard, so that means more overtime. More processes. The cost for ballots is expensive. You can't print ballots in paper bags. You're going with the finest quality paper, and under ordering ballots is a really bad idea. So it's really expensive. Elections aren't cheap. I always say that elections aren't cheap. We have to focus on quality resources for them, but also efficiency and building trust in the process.
Absolutely. Where do people find you, find out what you're doing, your campaign? How do they, support you, or, where can people find you to figure out how to either donate or join your campaign?
Yeah, so if you want to donate to my campaign or get information, sign up for my e-newsletter. JoannaForCountyClerk.com is my website right now. So you're welcome to join that, or just reach out on social media, Facebook or Instagram.
Awesome. Is there any closing comments you want to make?
I just want to make sure and reiterate that I'm doing this work because I want to serve the community. I want to be part of that community. I want us to build trust with each other and calm some of the chaos that we've had the last few years. And I think we can do that. Shasta County is full of people who are full of grit and resilience. And I love this community, and I'm proud to be part of it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Joanna Francescut.
Yep.
Did I say it right?
Yep. Rhymes with biscuit.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.